Welcome to Now Be You podcast. This is a space for women who lead, create, and carry responsibility and who want to stay grounded, clear, and true to themselves while doing it. I'm Leonora and Deborah, a mentor in embodied leadership and personal transformation. And in these conversations, we go beyond achievements and titles to explore the real turning points, doubts, and choices that guide us back to who we truly are. I continue these conversations in Now Be You Substack, where I share reflections and guided practices to help you slow down, think clearly, and reconnect with yourself. So today we are in conversation with Deborah Sass. Deborah Sass is the visionary CEO and co-founder of Spaceverse, a digital platform connecting millions of people to space through immersive technology, storytelling, and global engagement. But what makes Deborah's story remarkable is not only what she has built, it's how she built it and the courage it took to follow an unconventional path. So, hello, Deborah.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. And how are you? So lovely to have you here.
Thank you. This is a beautiful environment. So, very nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's, you are such a charming personality and you have that igniting energy wherever you go. And it's like it represents such a fire energy as we've been discovering elemental energy signature. And I was just... was so inspired by you, by your work. So I would like to go, before we going into your passions and roles in life, I would like to ask you how, being your self story, how were you 10 years ago up to now as presenting yourself, being yourself? How were you before comparing to what you are now?
That's a great question, and thanks for starting with that. 10 years ago, I was actually living in Bali. Funny story, I was living in Los Angeles for 10 years before that. And when I got to LA, it was everything you can imagine. Celebrities and parties and fabulous brands and all sorts of amazing Hollywood stuff. And after 10 years, I really... I don't even think I noticed it, but then I read a book called Eat, Pray, Love. I then saw the movie and I was like, ciao, I'm out. I'm going to Bali.
You just left everything behind you. I can't
Literally. I had broken up from my long-term partner who I had moved to Los Angeles with. I mean, he was there already. He was a lot older than me. He was 24 years older than me, whatever. And I just moved into an apartment in Hollywood. I'd been there about a year. I had a little job. Had a little money from the businesses I'd done. And I was like, I'd love to take like a year off, like a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the bank account. I was like, I can't afford a Western country. I better find a third world country. So I saw the movie and went, that's it. I'm going to Bali. I'm going to check it out. I lasted almost 2 years. And actually, I met a guy, a Catalan, who happened to live in Bali and had this incredible restaurant. It was the most popular Spanish tapas restaurant in the whole of Indonesia. And we fell in love and we both moved to Ibiza together.
Oh, so you literally was eating, praying and loving. You did that.
I was eating, praying and loving, yes.
And behind that story, what was the story within you? What was bringing you actually with that book, with that story to Bali?
So I really wanted to, I've been working since I was quite young and not like part-time in a shop or something. I actually had a career by the time I was 17. And I've actually done the same thing. Because I didn't have any formal education, I had to really learn myself. I had to really push myself, read books, meet people, see what other people who actually had qualifications were doing. And one of the easiest things for me to do in the beginning was to sell advertising. So now this probably doesn't even happen in the world, but 30 years ago, you would literally pick up the phone and try and sell something to whoever picked it up from a list. You had like a call sheet. So I knew that by the time I was 40, I wanted to like have a little bit, I wasn't going to retire, but I wanted to have a little bit of a break. So when I got to Bali, I just disconnected from everything. And Bali is very similar to Ibiza. It's a place where people who are really looking for that break will go. And they always say that, you know, a city or an island will kick you out if you don't know and you don't have the right intentions.
Yes.
So I loved living in Bali. I've been to Bali 30 times in my life, but living there was very challenging because after about 18 months, I wanted to start another business. And so I started it from Bali and realized that actually fundraising and building a company was everybody's in a bikini and a sarong and they're all partying all the time. And so I ended up moving back to Barcelona first and then to Ibiza.
So being yourself today, how would you describe that?
Compared to myself 10 years ago, I'm different to 6 months ago.
Yeah, so, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, I'm totally... So I'm definitely much more comfortable in my own skin. And I think that, again, starting from nothing and building something up, it gives you a resilience that is far outweighs any real education that you can get, any formal education. So I think the person I am today is constantly evolving. And in fact, I'm probably more open to things today, being older, than I was maybe 10 years ago.
And what advice would be to yourself 10 years ago from the position where you are right now?
Oh, that's a great question. And I've actually thought about that question. Don't take everything so seriously.
Oh, I love that. I think it's for everyone, including our listeners. Sometimes we get really seriously in our movie and get stuck.
Yeah.
Just because we want to be perfect, actually. Yeah. And this is what I see in you. It's like you represent courage. You represent that inner fire that burns all the limits. So let's talk a little bit about space. How did you end up to be in the Spaceverse industry?
And
what does it mean for a woman to go on the path that there is no roadmap?
Oh, wow. And so I'll start with a 30-second funny story because this is actually how it all started. 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, a very old business colleague of mine, a German guy, who I'd known at that stage 15, 17 years. Now we've known each other about 25 years. So 8, 9 years ago, he rings me and he says one thing. He says, Deborah, I want you to help me launch Space Hero. And I said, what's Space Hero? And he said, it's a global casting show giving away the biggest prize ever given out on television, a $55 million ticket for a 10-day stay on the ISS. And I went, holy moly, sign me up. I'm in. I've just got one question. And he said, what? I said, what's the ISS?
I love that.
And that literally, when I tell that story, people are like, I'm sorry, you sat on the Global Economic Forum board for 3 years for the space and you didn't know what the ISS was a few years before that? Yeah, I knew zero about space. I didn't know anything about all the different industries and the different people. And it leads very nicely into the current company, which is a community.
And this community has been built like very successful. As I heard, it's more than 16 million subscribers. Yeah. How did it happen? How did you guys went to this?
So Space Hero was a great idea. It's what in the space business or in the business you call a moonshot idea. So it's really, really unlikely you're going to succeed. But if you succeed, you're going to change the world. You're going to disrupt a whole entire industry. And we tried for 6 years. We built a network. We raised $10 million, which most of that I did from my farm up the road from you in San Rafael.
In Ibiza.
In Ibiza, exactly. So, and that in itself is an unusual, another
Totally.
Conversation. And even though I considered it a failure, of course it's not. I mean, we built this community, we raised the money, we just couldn't raise enough. As I just said to you, we needed $55 million to buy a ticket from SpaceX to send a normal person on all televised into space. And we just couldn't get to that level. The business industry were like, who's going to watch a show? And I was like, I don't even like space. I'd watch that show. It's like crazy. What are you talking about? So when I pivoted and we kind of bifurcated the company, what I wanted to do was build a community while we were building Space Hero, but we didn't have a deep pocket of resources. We were a startup. We were constantly hustling and raising money, paying salaries, raising more money, paying more salaries. It was a hustle, and it was very, very interesting and a great learning experience. But what I wanted was, I don't know anything about the space industry, but there's so many amazing stories and people, and I've met thousands of people in 6 years. In fact, my office told me before I came to to this interview that I had actually done 3,485 conference calls when I was running the first 3 years of Space Hero. And I was like, I spoke to a lot of people. Because how else do you learn about a new business?
Exactly.
But immerse yourself in it. So I wanted to do something that was like, let's make the space industry the most inaccessible industry in the world. Let's make it more relatable and more accessible to people like me that know that we're not engineers, we're not physics people, we're not scientists, we're not astronauts, we're not government employees, we're not military, we're not academics. Just normal people that like look up and have questions. And so that was the basis of Spaceverse. So I went and got a brilliant couple of great investors in Singapore and Dubai. And they said, we want to do this with you because we don't know anything about space and you know everybody in the space business. And that's how it started.
Wow, this sounds very beautiful and amazing and inspiring story. But let's go a little bit deeper in behind the scenes. You know, those moments when you, courageous women, you know, calling, picking up the phones, you know, trying to raise the money for this a great idea. But this business didn't have a roadmap. How did you deal with that in a daily life when you were doubting? Maybe you were close to burnout or moments where you would not see a light in front of yourself. What was the inner tools you were using with yourself? What was that, Deborah, to deal with that?
I don't think I ever had a single day where I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I definitely had a lot of doubts. I definitely had a lot of burnout in between and at the end. It was tough. Because it's tough picking up the phone or doing on camera calls all day, every day, with people saying no.
Exactly.
Or people saying like, what are you talking about? This has never been done before. So
how can you guarantee
the
this?
The thing that I had, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, is that absolute blind faith in yourself.
Exactly.
Because there is, you know what? I'm the star of my life and I'm the star of my show and I'm obsessed with my health because you know why? Nobody else is going to be.
Nobody else is going to
Nobody else is going to be doing anything for you as much as you can do it for yourself. In fact, it gives me goosebumps.
And listening to your story, I just remember my story when I was 17 years old and I was looking for a first job, back in the capital at that time. And I met this entrepreneur, and he was saying, look, you want to get a job, come to my interview, let's see if you're going to make it. So he gives me a book, like a kind of a notebook with a lot of squares, and he's saying, if in the weekend, through the weekend, you have to fill every square and every page with a word no. If you make it through, you come back to the interview. If not, don't call me, don't bother me, I'm like, of course, no problem, I'm like, I'm going to make it in 5 hours. I'm going to go to party. And then, as a student, and then I'm come back on Monday for the interview. I'm starting to do this nose, page by page, square by square. I'm getting deeper and deeper into doubt with myself. Like my confidence is going down, my energy is going down. I don't want to go anywhere. I see that I'm not even went through a half of the blanket, and I'm almost on Monday. I was so in a deep question with myself. Do I really want what I want? What is that?
Wow.
But I said, I'm going to...
All at 17?
Yes. And I said, you know what? I'm going to prove to him that I can do this. That was the first moment for me to do this. And the moment I did it, and he said, leave the last page empty. So I'm coming to the interview for the work, for the first job, actually, in my life. That didn't last long, but anyways. And I'm dropping this blanket on his table. I'm like, I did it. He's like, well done. Open the last page. I'm like, yeah, and what? Write a big yes. You've got a job.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And also very bizarre.
Very bizarre. But the moment you're telling me about your story, I just saw this, in front of my eyes. This is what you've been doing, picking up the calls and kind of receiving so many no's, so many doubts, and going within yourself with that.
Yes,
so it was like just talking about women leaders. We are facing this reality, and it's like, what is one tool or advice for the woman who is really seeking, for her vision, and also going through doubts and moments where she's feeling lost? What would be your advice?
Never give up. Never give up. If you have an idea, and I think, again, for most entrepreneurs, men or women, it's passion. It's passion. It's passion. And if you don't have passion and you can't ask for money to build your passion, you kind of need to get a job, huh? Entrepreneurialism is not for the faint-hearted. And I get brutally offended when people actually who've never been entrepreneurs, who've never taken that risk. I mean, if I didn't keep raising money, there were 40 people that didn't get paid. Not just me, not just the other co-founder, but 40 people. First of all, that's a lot of pressure. But you keep doing it because you believe in it and you want to change and disrupt an industry. And if you don't have that resilience, and yes, of course, we all have doubts. Yes, of course. One of the biggest things that helped me was actually always being quite fit, like always walking with my dogs and lifting weights and doing classes and really keeping my physicalness going. It really helped with my mental kind of stability.
So this, let's say, every time I'm hearing you, like inspiring, whatever you're saying, it's so inspiring and it's so passionate and fiery. So you're dominant when you work, let's say you live your life from inner passion, which is represent fire element for us. And fire element can also take you on a other side of the journey where normally, you can break through, do a lot of things, but also burn out. How did you deal in your life not to get burned out with this fire that you carry inside of you?
I think I probably did get burnt out without realizing it at the time.
Yes.
And I did get rushed to hospital in the middle of some crazy investor situation that went on for weeks. And again, it helped me to remember that, at the end of the day, we want to build something, we want to do something great, but we also have to be connected to ourselves.
Yes.
And without sounding too sort of esoteric, I think it's really, sometimes you need physically to be stopped for you to remember that actually walking around outside, being in nature is so important. Being around animals, being around beautiful people that really connect with themselves. And I mean, that's why we live in Ibiza.
Totally.
Right? Because we want to be in that community. But yeah, you have to remember that. And I think we all forget that, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur.
Exactly. We are juggling, in this in-between balance. It's never perfect balance, or we go one side or the other. And when you are telling about responsibility for other employees or the vision you are carrying, it's the same responsibility we have to carry for ourselves, because nobody else is going to do that responsibility if you're not taking care of yourself. So kind of the priority and life where it's taking us and the body where it's taking us to basically take care of yourself, because you is that who's doing the rest.
Yeah. And you could be that pebble that creates that ripple, right? And if you're not physically, emotionally, spiritually aligned, then I think that's a big point.
It is. And it's like, you as such an activist and such a busy woman, but also passionate woman about life and beauty and aesthetics, you are not only in Spaceverse. I know that you have created so many passionate projects as SASS Arts, and you are connecting and bridging, let's say, Spaceverse with arts and much more projects. Can you please share about, let's say, the moment you decided to create more projects than you are doing right now? Where is this?
Where is this energy?
How many hours you have a day, and how does that work?
Well, when you love something, it's very easy to do it, first of all. So it never feels like a chore. So SASS Arts came out of, very simply, I don't have millions of dollars in the bank yet to be a philanthropic person. And to be philanthropic, even to volunteer, and I actually do some charity work in the background. But SASS Arts came out of the fact that I couldn't afford to give back and support the arts in the way that I wanted to. But what do I know about? I know about building communities and business and raising money. So why not use my superpowers already that I've been doing for decades and put it into organizations that are really creating and protecting cultural heritage and doing, for instance, the New York City Opera, who I sit on the board of. I mean, they've been going since the 40s. And New York City Opera is such an iconic brand and such a beautiful, I love opera. I saw my first opera when I was 11. And I remember that my music teacher said, now, class, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. And I was 11. What did I know? And I remember it was Madame Butterfly, and I remember sitting on watching the I didn't understand any of it. Yeah. I didn't understand the language they were speaking, but I felt it. And I'm watching it, and there's little tears coming down my eyes when there was some bit where the girl falls out with the boy and whatever. I can't remember the exact story now. But I remember thinking, oh my God, I absolutely love it. And now 40 years later, I sit on their global board. And really my role is exactly what I've been talking to you about. It's about being able to give back and giving others the opportunity to give back in a meaningful way. And New York City Opera is really the people's opera, so that's kind of cool. And the same with actually a new foundation, the Fundación Kahlo, which who doesn't know Frida Kahlo? I mean, you could be in a tiny village and you show a photo of one of her pieces of art and everybody knows it, even if they don't know her name. Again, I bought my first replica of a Kahlo painting, it's just a print, like 30 years ago. It's still on my wall outside of my bedroom and I see it every day. And when I was asked to join their board, for me it was like, again, I want to take opera and art to people that don't get exposed to it. Or, people that you don't have to be super wealthy to be somebody that supports the arts. But supporting the arts is super important. It's what separates us from animals because people have to create. People have to tell stories. They have to go on journeys. And it's not for everybody, right? Yes. Being an artist, being a creative is not for everybody. I'm definitely not in that world, but more in the business world. But we need, and every human being should be supported in the creative worlds by people that can.
So you are choosing art to reconnect with your inner space? Would that be...
I'd have to use that. That's good. I like that. Sure.
It looks like it. And it's like... what would you advise for busy women besides, let's say, the passion she carries? How would it be from your perspective as a busy leader to reconnect within a space? What would be your advice to how you can use your busy day to reconnect with your inner space?
Maybe this is not the answer you're looking for, but it's my answer. I believe that every human being should give back and be of serving the other person.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And I think that We have 168 hours in the week, Leonora. We work, let's say, 40 hours a week. We sleep, let's say, 50 hours a week, right? Maybe muscle menos a little bit more. But that already leaves 60 plus hours. Yes, people have families and blah, 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 blah. But fundamentally, can you not give 1 hour a week to something or somebody that needs your help? And so one of the things...
I love that.
Yeah, so one of the projects that... And look, when I was growing up, I knew a lot about, or I heard about this thing called Rotary. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I am not joining a group full of old white rich people. Mm-hmm. Like, forget it. And I remember being asked many times over the decades, and only in the last couple of years, I met a lawyer who's been a Rotarian. She's here, it's a woman, German woman, and she said, I'd really like to set up an online club. And I was like, what does that mean? She said, well, you know, we all run businesses. We're not going to meet every week for lunch like the old Rotary system did, but we're going to do like a meeting online, 1 hour, and we're going to find projects on the island, local projects to support. So it's 1 hour a week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I could just write a check, right? Or I could do something. And actually to come back to myself and to... Busy people always get more stuff done, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're busy...
What is that?
I don't know, because we're more organised, because we don't have a lazy bone in our body.
Yeah.
So I think that being of service to others and helping people who are less fortunate than us, I think it's almost it's a right for humanity. Yes. And it's not just left to rich people who can have buildings named after them or whatever. But, you know, I think it's about just you and me. There are plenty of registered charities on this island. And I'm sure in every city in the world, there are multiple Rotary clubs. In fact, there are 1.4 million Rotarians in the world that volunteer to raise money for people less fortunate than themselves.
I love this good news. We should listen more and more good news of that.
Yes.
And it's, you know, giving back is a privilege.
Correct.
And we should use that very carefully and be grateful for that. And it's so beautiful what you said, because giving back is taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
But not, you know, what I see in you and like really successful leaders, you're giving back from the full cup, not the cup that is leaking. And that's a difference. Mm-hmm. That's a nourishing to others and yourself. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that definitely is a portal to take care of yourself and your inner space. I love that. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you for asking me.
So the moment I'm seeing you busy woman, and I know you started from somewhere, you know, not being busy, but being successful, being sharp, knowing what you're going for. And what challenges have you met in your life? Mm-hmm. How did you face it?
That's an interesting and also a challenging question. When I was much younger, I had a model. My mother was a model and my father was a jazz musician. So she was beautiful. My dad was super cool. And we grew up in a very, very, let's say, I wouldn't say on the poverty line, but we were in a council building, you know, so we lived on the social housing. I'm sure my mother got money from the government to put food on the table. They didn't have full-time jobs all the time. And there was 3 young kids to look after. And what that allows you to do is when you don't have the ability to just go to a store and buy something, or there was no online back then, right? I mean, there was, maybe we didn't know how to use it, but you had to, like, necessity is the mother of all invention. Yes, and I could have stayed at school. I maybe could have gone to university, but I don't think my grades were that good because I actually really wanted to work with people and be in the media. What I've done since I was 17 or 18 is the same thing I do now, but in different industries. But it was exactly what I knew I wanted to do. So it's almost like it pushed you into having to decide. I didn't have the ability to go to university, so therefore I couldn't get a formal degree. So why would somebody listen to me when I was telling them, selling them, whatever, in all sorts of, you know, mainly the media industry is what I've worked in for 30 years. So I think that
How were you facing that? How did you deal with that?
I just never stopped. I never thought that I was a failure. I never thought. I remember the first time a journalist asked me, well, what's it like to be a woman of color? And I was like, are you talking to me? What woman of color? Oh, I'm not white. What are you talking about?
I love that.
But it was really funny because they saw me as a woman of color. I just saw myself as a business person, like woman, man, whatever, white, brown, didn't matter to me. I'm just somebody hustling like everybody else. And so how people identify with you, it's one of the reasons why SASS Arts and some of the other projects that I have are so important to me, because I didn't have a lot of role models that looked like me. Sure, there were plenty of women that were really smart, that were really successful, that were running big companies, but Oprah was so far removed from my lifestyle. I mean, and I wasn't likely to become a newsreader on a television show. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
correct.
That's the beauty of your journey as well. Before we are closing our beautiful conversation, I wanted to ask you about authenticity, which is so overused word sometimes and not taking really the weight of it is so powerful. What is misunderstanding according to your perspective about authenticity? How people misunderstand that?
Let me answer it like this. I am not the supporting act in my life. I am absolutely the star of my life. And you can't not be authentic if you live your life like you're the star of the movie that you're making and the show that is your life and the journey. So being authentic is just being real, like getting up every day and having an intention about what you do. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I'm not like the smartest person in the room. I'm always trying to lose weight. I mean, I have all the same problems as everybody else. But what separates me from people who have had jobs their whole life is that I never gave up, because I knew there was a skill that I had to keep pushing. And if you don't have something and you're not likely to get it, you're going to find a way to get it, right? And being authentic is absolutely it.
And that's the deep authenticity, that it's not coming from your mind. You just acting and you vibrating this around you. It's so inspiring, really. I'm so grateful to have you here to really listen to your inspiring stories, and especially the energy that you bring, and remind women and all the leaders about courage and being authentic, just the way you are. This is what you allow, and this is where you activate that for others, and might be triggering as well.
We've all got a story, and we've got to kind of put it out there.
So before we leave our conversation, and I would like to ask you one thing. What would you like to leave one thing for the listeners to take away from this conversation?
I would really like people to be brave, because you know what? There is nothing that's going to stop you if you are authentic and you yourself. You just keep going and you pivot and you figure things out, but just do something. Just try. Don't think that, well, what if I do? Nobody cares about your life as much as you. So just try. Try anything, try something, but just do it.
I'm taking this in. Before we leave, I'm taking from this conversation for myself, being a superstar of your own movie. That's the most inspiring for me, for my own movie, and I do believe for all the listeners that are here with us today. Thank you so much, Deborah. And I hope to see you again.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was great.
And question to you, dear listeners, what are you taking from this conversation? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If this conversation resonated, I share deeper reflections and guided audio practices in Now Be You Substack, a space to slow down, think clearly, and reconnect with yourself in the middle of a full life. Few times a year, we bring this work into real life through carefully curated retreats where leading women step away from the noise, reflect, and return with clarity and renewed direction. Subscribe to Now We Use Substack and find out more. Until next time, stay yourself.